All right, this is the matter of Corbin Vaughn.
Larry Brown on behalf of Tabitha Alexander.
And Donna Hance on behalf of Corbin Brown.
Mr. Solis from the department is here with us. I have received quite a number of documents, so let me kind of go through those. The first one's listed exhibit number 1, and it's a photo of who I believe is Ms. Alexander taking a drink with a screenshot that says, you look a lot happier, thanks, my ex died. And then there's the other documentation in with that. So I didn't know exactly what it was to go to, but that is what I referred to as the exhibits 1 through 5 and some additional photos dated June 9th of 25.
I would have an objection to those exhibits, Your Honor. I don't see how they are relevant. I mean, it seems like they're attached there maybe is just inflammatory. I don't see how they're relevant to the proceedings in this particular case.
Can I talk to my attorney?
Did you try to do that before court today?
Yes, I did, and he was unable to answer my phone calls.
Your Honor, I have spoken to her quite a bit. I was not able to today.
All right. We'll put you in a breakout room to do that at this time then. We'll take a brief recess. Ms. Alexander, have you had sufficient time to speak with your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Brown, you were indicating to me that regarding the exhibits and additional photos that I referenced, that you had an objection. Do you want us to continue that, make that any additional information as to that?
I do have an objection to that, Your Honor, as to how that is in any way relevant to this particular case. That was in a different court. These are text messages. It had nothing to do with Corbin. These were between her and her former partner. I know that they were done online, but I just don't see how they pertain to this particular matter. It was 2 adults going at each other.
I'm looking at, in response to your question about relevance, I'm looking at the department's report by Mr. Solis on page 4. There are a number of paragraphs that address exhibit and the top paragraph as well as the middle and the bottom paragraph, and then going over onto page 5. And the culmination of that at the top of page 5, there's this sentence: these actions, which are discussed in the exhibits, clearly demonstrate Tabitha's unaddressed BPD, which is bipolar disorder, as symptoms include intense and often uncontrollable emotions after a triggering event that can lead to impulsivity, disruption of relationships in an individual's life, and viewing others in extremes that quickly change your opinion of them. So it appears to me that the report does, at least by reference, indicates that those documents in the exhibits are of a relevance to a barrier claim made by the department as to Ms. Alexander. Now, whether you agree with them or you think that they fully show that is another thing altogether, but it does appear to me that they had some relevance on that basis. So I'm going to admit those, and you can certainly argue against their efficacy in the future if you wish.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Any other objections, Mr. Brown?
No, Your Honor.
All right. The court will then admit all of the exhibits noted on the record for the court's consideration during the review process. Mr. Somerville, do you have a witness for the court's consideration this afternoon?
Yes, Judge, and if you would like, I could support the court's decision with 2 court rules.
Please, whatever you prefer.
Well, right now, we are under Michigan Court Rule 3.975, post-dispositional procedures. The child is in foster care. I would reference 3.975E. It's called procedure. Dispositional review hearings must be conducted in accordance with procedures and rules of evidence applicable to initial dispositional hearing. So that would bring us to 3.973. It's called dispositional hearing. And under letter E, again, it's called evidence and reports. So the Michigan rules of evidence do not apply except for the attorney-client privilege. And further, number E2, All relevant and material evidence, including oral and written reports, may be received and may be relied on to the extent of its probative value. So I believe those sections that I've cited support the court's decision.
Thank you, Mr. Sommerfeld. Call your first witness, please.
Thank you. Joaquin Solis, please, Judge.
All right, sir, would you raise your right hand so I can swear you in? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, go ahead and put your hand down. State your full name for the record. Spell your last name.
Joaquin Solis, Solis.
All right, Mr. Sommerfeld, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Solis, how are you employed?
I'm a foster care worker for Otsego County DHHS.
Okay, are you familiar with Corbin Vaughn?
Yes, I am. He's a foster kiddo on my caseload.
Okay, and the case service plan, parent agency treatment plan, in the court report, you did author all of those.
I did.
And the other exhibits that were identified and presented to the court and admitted this afternoon, they came from other sources, other service providers.
Correct.
Okay. What I'd like to talk about is I'd like to reference the parent agency treatment plan. And so this is the one with the report date of 7/18/2025 for today. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
All right. So when I go to, this is page 2, we have our first needs and outcome, a need domain of emotional stability and behavior. Can you tell us what services Miss Alexander, we have identified, and then tell me if she is engaged and then also benefiting from those services?
So Tabitha is currently in counseling, both individual counseling and substance abuse counseling through Bear River Health. She also receives medication oversight from a nurse practitioner at Bear River Health. She has been participating, as noted in the court report. She's changed therapists a number of times throughout this year, but I believe her initial start date was mid-June with her latest therapist through Bear River.
Okay. How many therapists has Miss Alexander had? You said she's changed therapists. Sounded like a couple of times.
So she changed from her therapist, Adam Labarth, towards the beginning of this year. She was with him previously throughout the prior year, I believe for at least 6 months. And then she changed to Bear River Health, or Catholic Human Services. She was with a therapist there for a short amount of time, a few months. Then she changed again to another therapist through there. And then in June of this year, she changed to her current therapist through Bear River Health.
Okay. And with these changes, it has that, in your opinion, is it helping with her progress?
No, I would say that it's detrimental to her progress. I believe that she was on a good path with Adam. We're seeing this pattern of if there's something that Tabitha disagrees with from the therapist, she doesn't like that. She feels like it paints her in a negative light. She's changing therapists. So, obviously it takes some time to build rapport with a therapist. So when you're jumping around every couple of months to a new therapist, no, I feel that that's detrimental to her making progress in the core issues here. I mean, really, with all these exhibits and what we were trying to show, the relevance here is that throughout this case, going all the way back to 2022, 2023, we have not seen a significant long period of emotional stability from Tabitha. She'll do well for a while and things will happen, and she kind of falls off. So, I mean, what we're really saying here with everything that we've submitted to the court is that we are just not seeing continued stability from her. And that is obviously a concern given, that the children, her other children were returned to her and re-removed within a month. And now Corbin has been in care for over a year. So no, I would say that this constant moving through therapists is detrimental to our efforts to try and get Corbin back with Tabitha.
Okay, and so where it's rated progress evaluation as partial, would it be a fair statement, and tell me if you agree, that while she has engaged in services, she's not demonstrating the benefit that would rectify the barrier to return of Corbin?
Yes.
All right. Parenting skills is also marked progress evaluation as partial. Can you give us some explanation for that?
Sure. I think we've clearly stated throughout all of these review hearings, all of my court reports, that Tabitha does have a significant bond with Corbin. And in general, these supervised parenting times with the parenting aide, with the exception of a few incidents that we've documented before, she does well overall with him. And that includes her current LTP, Caden. In general, she is capable of taking care of his basic needs in a controlled setting. But again, we're 12 months in here and we don't have discretion to move to unsupervised parenting time per the court. And I think that speaks to, again, the overall issue of the lack of continued stability in her lifestyle.
Okay, so are you saying that at this time, without supervision, the child would be put in harm's way because of the lack of progress thus far?
Yes.
Okay, the last need domain is, well, not the last one, the resource availability and management. Can you talk about that one?
Yes. So Tabitha is currently employed. She's been employed for a couple of months now. But again, um, you know, overall, throughout the last few years, we've seen a pattern. I'm not even sure how many jobs she's had since Corbin's removal, but it's been a significant amount, and she really has not been able to maintain them for more than a few months. And as I stated in the report, Tabitha applied for some benefits through DHHS. And in that, she outlined that her LTP is the one that's paying the rent and electric monthly in the amount of $306. She had attempted to say that Corbin was in the home. At the time of her application, she stated that her employment at Alpine Taxi was still a maybe. She's not currently employed there. She's currently employed at the Otsego Country Club, where she was employed before. So this is an issue because this is kind of the same situation that Tabitha was in with her previous LTP. He was providing the majority of the financial support. At that time, she wasn't working at all, but her work has been sporadic. And we haven't seen any evidence that if she needed to, she could financially provide for Corbin on her own.
All right. And then the last need domain in the parent agency treatment plan is it is social support system. And the sentence you have in the description talks about since Corbin's removal, comma, Tabitha has associated with a number of individuals who have extensive criminal histories. Has that affected the case and maybe perhaps her progress?
Yes, historically it has. I will say that there has not been incident reported to me by the parenting aide in some time, but You know, I believe it was early spring of this year, we documented an instance where Tabitha, during the supervised parenting time, took Corbin to a friend of hers. There were some issues going on with a mom that was in the home. She was going through some mental health stuff. The parenting aide reported that there were prescription drugs that were out. She had to intervene to ensure that Corbin did not have access to them. So we're seeing this pattern, and it's outlined in her psychological evaluation that, you know, addressing these interpersonal relationships is very important. And it just, you know, again, it's not happening all the time, but it is very much an up and down thing with Tabitha where these things keep occurring. You know, and I believe that goes back to her inability to address her borderline personality disorder through her therapy, and her willingness to change therapists if she's hearing something that she doesn't like.
All right. Do the therapists, they've had copies of the results of the psychological evaluation?
Yes, I provided them to all of her therapists.
Okay. And these therapists, are they in a position to address the needs outlined in the psychological evaluation as in the particular modality of therapy?
Yes, I will say I did not get clarification from her latest therapist, although I had, you know, communication with her several times. I did receive, and we also submitted her treatment plan, but I did not get confirmation from her. It's recommended that Tabitha be participating in CBT, and that was not confirmed with her. And as I outlined in the report, many of the treatment goals are not what her evaluation recommends that she focus on. You know, that being said, I don't think that they're necessarily bad treatment goals. You know, it talks about obtaining her GED, you know, money management, things of that nature. But the primary focus is not on her mental health, her diagnoses, and you know, that again is the biggest barrier for us right now, trying to move forward with further visits and reunification.
Okay, so Miss Alexander has had therapists that were qualified to address the issues in the psychological, but she has now changed therapists, and now she has a therapist that may or may not be qualified.
Yes, to my knowledge.
Okay. So I'm going now, I'm looking at your court report, page 10, it's the last page, talks about the recommendation. Are you still you're asking that a visitation remains supervised? So you're still not in a position to ask for discretion or perhaps unsupervised parenting time?
Well, based on our recommendation in the last hearing, to have discretion to move to unsupervised time and the court's decision to not grant us that discretion, we're again leaving that up to the court. If they feel that it is appropriate to give us discretion, we will look at any progress made and make a decision on when that might be able to occur.
Okay, and then when I look at your number 3, usually we have that recommendation in a lot of our foster care reports, you know, to demonstrate and benefit from her parent agency treatment plan. You have in the word there, demonstrate significant benefit. Why did you put that word in there?
Um, Really based on the time that Corbin's been in care. And again, you know, Tabitha's other children were in care for a number of years before Corbin was removed. And like I said, he's been in foster care for a year and 5 months. And disposition occurred, just a little over a year ago. So, I mean, we're really looking to see some real improvement from Tabitha if the court does grant her more time. We just need to see some more consistency and not this up and down where she's doing okay for a little bit, but then, that we're having issues, be it with her therapist, with her, getting information from her nurse practitioner about her medication, and things like that. So we're really looking for evidence that, if we were to expand or step back, that she would be able to protectively parent Corbin consistently.
Okay, and so when we look at recommendation number 4, it appears that we're asking the court to make that decision. But in our view, from the department, there is, substantial grounds to file at this point in time. Is that your position?
Yes, it is.
Okay, but it's also true that we're not, at the 15 months after disposition, where it, even in the court rules, it becomes mandated. We're still short of that time frame. Is that true?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So if she were to be granted more time, what would be the things that you would be looking for? Like if we were walking in the dark and you pulled out a flashlight, how would you point the way?
We would be looking for some more significant progress reports. If you look at the progress reports that we get, it's basically just an attendance record. We're not getting any solid feedback from the service providers. Also, I have not been able to connect with Tabitha's nurse practitioner regarding her medication. And we didn't touch on that, but it is in the report. I believe it was beginning of July. Tabitha had told both myself and the parenting aide that she was having negative effects from her Abilify, and they had upped her dosage to twice a day instead of once a day. I have not been able to receive any clarification from her provider as to why that decision was made. She did connect with them. They did provide me with a letter saying that, it was recommended that it was fine that she go back down to once a day. And she did talk to them about that. However, I also have not been able to get any clarification on her ADHD medication, her Vyvanse. The drug screens I provided, they're not, we're not seeing consistently that there's amphetamines in her system, which we would see if she was on a stimulant like Vyvanse. I believe it was just the very last drug screen that I had where it was present. So anything that Tabitha's provided for me only addresses her Abilify. I don't know what the oversight on her Vyvanse is. And this was, Tabitha had not signed a release, and I also noted that in the court report, and there was resistance from her that, she had provided me with some screenshots of just a basic generic statement from providers that she was in for a pill count and she's stable on her medication on Bear River letterhead, and had given me some pushback about that's enough for you. That's all you need to know. She did sign a release, according to her, after meeting with our program manager on the 5th of this month. Our program manager encouraged her to do so, and she did, but I still have not been able to connect with her provider. So we're really looking for, some more concrete feedback from her counselor that she's addressing these mental health issues, and also that she's following her medication, and just, really some more stability. I understand that, it might seem inflammatory, some of the stuff that we submitted to the court today, but I think it speaks pretty clearly to instability on her part, in her day-to-day life when she's not interacting with the department or service providers.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the court?
I don't think so. Not at this time.
All right. Thank you, Judge. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Solis, you said that Tabitha had multiple different therapists. How many did she have? I think you said 3.
This would be her 4th one.
Okay, so 3 before this one then.
Yes.
And is that uncommon, at least in your work?
Given the time frame, yes. And this, I didn't mean that that's 3, like throughout this entire case. This is coming from the beginning of this year, when she changed with her therapist through Bear River, and then fairly rapidly over the next couple of months changed therapists.
And is it important for people in this position and Tabitha's position to work closely with a case manager?
Yes.
Isn't it very common for many times case managers to roll over rather quickly? A person could have 4 or 5 different case managers throughout a case.
It does happen.
You said that she doesn't have any continued period of emotional stability. What do you mean by that? What is a continued period?
I would say longer than a couple of months. Again, if you go back and look at these counselor changes, and turnover is common, yes. These are all based on Tabitha's decision. She was getting continued feedback from her counselor Adam at the beginning of the year that she was making progress in some areas, but overall she was reluctant to address past trauma and underlying issues. And eventually she changed, and she told me in her own words that this was because she wanted to erase everything that Adam had said, because he was saying that she's unstable. Her next counselor, she disagreed with her opinions on her marijuana use, felt that she was sharing too much information with the department. So she changed over briefly. She was with the 3rd counselor just for a short amount of time, not even long enough for me to make contact with them. And then she, in June, started with this new therapist. So, it's those kind of things, the real life examples of, posting this stuff on social media, negative interactions with Corbin's paternal family. Were just, if you go back until last summer and some of the interactions and the people that she was hanging out with, she was homeless for the majority of the year. All of these are showing that overall she is not providing a stable environment, if that answers your question.
A stable environment. Okay. A stable environment for whom?
For Corbin?
Corbin is not there, correct?
Not at this time.
Have negative reports when she is with Corbin. From everything that I've read, they're all very, very positive.
Yeah, I've stated numerous times that in the controlled setting that Tabitha has with Corbin, it's undeniable. She has a bond with him. She loves him and he loves her. But again, we've been in this situation before where we've given Tabitha the benefit of the doubt of the things that she's saying. and her children were removed after a little over a month.
And how many children were there?
There are 4.
And now we're dealing with just one child, correct?
We are.
You say it's a little easier to deal with one child as opposed to 4.
I would.
So it's not quite the same situation. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Now, what did you mean by her current therapist may or may not be qualified? I guess I don't understand that statement.
I had asked in an email if she had received Tabitha's psychological evaluation, if they were following the recommendations in that, and if she was qualified for CBT. And I outlined, I'll have to look at the page, it's in the court report, the response that I got from her. But basically, she said that they were a co-occurring facility. They were addressing her individual needs as well as substance abuse counseling, but did not specify if she was providing CBT therapy as recommended in her evaluation.
Okay. How often does she see Corbin?
She has twice weekly visits,
And how long do those visits last?
usually about 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours. I don't think it's always, it just depends on schedules, but she has a full day with him twice a week.
Now, it was also brought up, I believe, mentioned regarding employment. She does have employment, correct?
Yes, she's currently employed.
Is it employment in and of itself that is important to the department, or whether or not she can make ends meet and support the child?
It's both a pattern of her inability to maintain employment for more than a couple of months at a time, and then also the concern that she would be able, if something were to happen in her relationship, would she be able to financially provide for Corbin on her own?
So that is if something would happen in her relationship, potentially could she care for Corbin, at least financially, on her own then? I mean, is
Yes.
there anything inherently wrong with somebody that you guys supervise or have a case with if they don't work as long as they're providing?
Do you mean that? I'm sorry, I'm not
Well,
clear.
let me put it this way. My wife was a stay-at-home mom and didn't work the entire time. I worked. Is that something that is inherently a problem? Or is it just, well, if he leaves, she might not be able to do this?
So, no, it's not inherently a problem. The issue is that, again, I think it's undeniable that when it suits her, Tabitha is untruthful to the department. And that is where we had an issue with her previous LTP, where she was dependent on him. And again, I noted in a phone call with her just as recently as the end of last month, she asked me, well, what did you want me to do? Like, he has my food card. That's why I ignored the safety plans that were put in place. That's why I allowed him back in the house. So that would be where the concern was.
And how has her behavior or her emotional behavior or her relationship as it was with Ethan before, or any of these posts, how has that put Corbin in any kind of danger, mentally, physically, emotionally?
How's her relationship with Ethan?
Beforehand, the relationship there, the posts, all of these things, her emotional instability as you are framing it. How has that affected Corbin?
I mean, Corbin is not in her care the majority of the time. And when he is, it's supervised. The problem becomes when she has, if she's given this unsupervised time and there's no oversight there, what happens then?
Oversight by who? By the department? Maybe
By the
by a
department.
trusted friend?
By the department, or, you know, the parenting aide, service providers.
So is the department kind of assuming that what she does outside of her parenting time or outside of parenting, she's just going to bring that into her parenting if she's not supervised?
I wouldn't say that we're assuming that. I think that we are just trying to present what we're seeing and show that this is a pattern, because we did see that previously when her children were returned.
And when her previous 4 children were returned, we know how that happened. Now we have the 1 child. How is the department? I feel like we're in a catch-22. How's the department going to determine, she's doing 8 hours a day, twice a week, and seems to be doing wonderfully. Is she doing wonderfully, do you think, because she's being watched, or just because when Corbin is with her, she parents him?
I would say, just based on my history with the case, I would say that it's because there is some oversight there. There is supervision. There is, a lack of opportunity that there might be if he was returned to her care full time.
So would you agree then that at least while she's being watched, practically, for multiple hours, she does have the ability, she's not so mentally unstable, she can control herself?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't have anything further at the moment, Your Honor.
Ms. Hansel, any questions?
Yes, just a few. Prior to the return of her daughters, I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was the respondent mother, was she good at the parenting, the supervised parenting with her daughters prior to their return?
Yes, she was.
And are you seeking for her to demonstrate the ability to maintain a stable environment prior to the return of Corbin?
Yes.
So you're not seeking that once he's returned, she will develop that stable environment?
No, we would like to see a longer period of time, across the board, maintainment of her employment. Like I said, some significant positive feedback from her counselors, more contact with her medical provider, things like that.
Okay. Does her significant other or the live together partner, does he have a criminal background?
He does.
Pardon me?
Yes, he does. He
Okay.
was on parole. Actually, he may have been released from parole. I believe it was August of this year that he was scheduled to be released.
Okay, and he is the one currently paying the bills for her, is that correct?
According to the application for assistance from DHS, that is what Tabitha noted, that he is paying for utilities and rent in the amount of $306 a month.
Okay. If you know, has Tabitha expressed that if Corbin was returned home, that her significant other would move out, or is he still going to be there, or has she said?
No, she, as far as I know, the plan would be that they would remain together. She states that he's a positive support for her. So no, to my knowledge, there's no plans for him to leave the home.
Okay, and just, I'm sorry for jumping around here, but, as a note, would you agree that there's a significant difference in a case manager and the turnover of a case manager as opposed to the turnover in a therapist?
Yeah, yes, I would. And that's, I mean, I tried to state that by saying that those turnovers occurred because of Tabitha's choices and not, external factors or,
Okay,
um,
and on that note, did she, I realize you're saying it's her choices, but did she give a reason for the turnover of these prior 3 recent
so
therapists?
the reason for Adam, she had first stated that, she felt he wasn't a good fit, and obviously it's not our place to dispute that, but she did make statements after that about how she was unhappy with his consistent feedback that she wasn't making progress. He felt she was still unstable and had work to do. The second therapist that she went through Catholic Human Services, like I stated, and I stated in my report, there was an issue with her opinions on Tabitha's marijuana use at the time. And Tabitha also felt that she was sharing too much information with the department. And then the third therapist, again, she was only with very briefly. I did not even have a chance to speak with this person. It was only a matter of a couple of weeks, I believe. And then now she's with her current therapist.
Okay, and I want to apologize to the court. I don't have the exhibits which were entered into today. Those have not crossed my desk, so I don't have this information that everyone else has at this point, and I think that's just due to the transition in attorneys, and I'm sure there's a lag time there, but and I will get it. But right now I might be asking questions that everybody knows the answers to, but I don't have that information yet. Do you have all the required releases signed at this point that you would need for her, medical issues, therapeutic issues?
So I do have a release signed for her therapeutic issues. Like I said, she had a meeting with our program manager on the 5th of this month. And afterwards, we had a team phone call with Tabitha last Wednesday. She stated that she had signed a release for her medication, but I have not been able to touch base with her nurse practitioner, and I have not received that from Bear River yet.
Okay. Has Tabitha had any explanation as to why the Vyvanse would not be showing up on her drug test?
No,
Um, are you aware that Vyvanse would be a Schedule II drug?
yes,
And there'd be
which is why we're seeking some clarification on if that's being monitored as well. Like I said, Tabitha has provided some documentation on Bear River letterhead via text for me, but it only mentions her Abilify and not her Vyvanse. And
Okay.
it's not showing up on her drug screen, so that's some clarification on kind of what that oversight looks like through Bear River for that drug.
Okay, and the street value of that drug is fairly high. Do you agree?
Uh,
The sale on street?
I couldn't speak to that.
Okay. Okay. In Corbin's placement, does he have, so his placement's on his father's side, is that correct?
That's correct. He's placed with his paternal uncle and his
Okay.
wife.
And in that placement then, is he able to have a relationship with his other relatives on that side of the family?
Yes, his paternal grandmother is very involved, and he also is able at times to see his half sibling, who Ethan had with his current LTP before he passed.
Okay. That is all I'm seeing at this point. Thank you.
Mr. Somerville, any follow-up?
No, thank you, Judge.
All right. Any other witnesses or evidence, Mr. Somerville?
Not from the department, Judge.
Mr. Brown, any witnesses or evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Hansel, any witnesses or evidence?
No, sir.
I will hear closing statements then, Mr. Somerville.
Judge, the court is aware, it's in Mr. Solis's court report, the recommendations. We also went over those recommendations by taking testimony today. Really, I'm referring to court rule here, 3.975. This is post-dispositional review or procedures, child in foster care. And I'm looking at F, it's the criteria. The court, in reviewing the progress toward compliance with the case service plan, must consider, and I'd just like to reference a few of them. A, the services provided or offered to the parent, and B, whether the parent has benefited from services provided or offered. C talks about parenting time, whether it occurred or whether it did not occur. And then this is F1D, the extent to which the parent the extent to which the parent has complied with each provision of the case service plan, prior court orders, and any agreement between the parties. Any likely harm for the child, this is E. To continue the child being placed in foster care. And also F says any likely harm to the child if the child is returned to the parent. And then G wouldn't apply because it involves an Indian child. Judge, we're at about 12 months. We did not ask and come right out and say, hey, we're asking to file a termination petition. We believe it's appropriate. It may also be appropriate for the court to give Ms. Alexander 3 more months and see if, like Mr. Solis put in his report, recommendation number 3, comply with and demonstrate significant benefit. That's why I asked him about that. I'm like, why is significant in there? So I think from the testimony in the exhibit, you can see that there has not been the substantial compliance. If the court were to, be asked the question today, is Corbin ready to go home? The answer would be no. And so we're at 12 months. It may be proper for the court to give Ms. Alexander 3 more months to see if she can really demonstrate and not, actually have a good report here. And, but again, a lot of times, and it's a lot of times my practice also, when we get past 15 months, when the child's been in care for 15 months, that's when we are really starting to ask for, we need to file a termination petition. And there's always a case I cited as termination trial. I think it's the Williams case, has to do with one of the themes or holdings in the case is that children are not expected to spend significant amount of time in foster care, hoping that there will be a significant change in the parent's lifestyle. So I think we're at that point, and if the court does grant that 3 months, I would also ask, and I've done this in other cases in other counties and also this county prior to you taking the bench, Judge, to really talk to the parent. I've seen that be effective, and it's one thing to hear my words right now or hear it from Mr. Solis or his supervisor or other people from the department. It means a whole lot more coming from the court who is going to make the decision. And I would ask, those are the things that I'm asking for. Otherwise, I'm just asking the court to follow the recommendations and make the decision regarding should we file a termination petition or give it 3 more months with a bit of kind of like a locker room speech at halftime. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want everybody, and I know everybody does, but the standard here is not that she parent the way we think she should, not that she parent the way that the state manual says she should, not do we like some of her life choices. The standard here is, can she parent Corbin in such a way that essentially protects him? She is currently able to provide for him physically. She is able to provide a home, food, shelter for hours upon end. Even though she is being watched, she has really good rapport, and there's nothing negative ever said about her parenting abilities. She is able to control that. What she does outside of her parenting, a lot of parents do things that their kids don't know about, or they might not want their kids to know about, especially at that young of an age. But I haven't heard anything that, at least while she's with Corbin, is any kind of a danger to him. I'm not necessarily saying it's proper for him to go home right now, let's close the case and be done. But we've been through this, and she has been consistent long enough and for a very significant amount of time in her relationship and her parenting abilities with Corbin for extended periods of time, that I believe that she should be given the chance, unless the department is scared that this child is going to be in imminent danger of life and limb, to have some unsupervised parenting time, Your Honor. And that's what that's really all we're asking for now, is not to move from completely supervised parenting time right into a termination petition. Give her an opportunity to show that she can do unsupervised what she has shown for a significant period of time supervised. Thank you.
Ms. Hansel.
Yes, Your Honor. Given the gravity of this case and the age of the child, how little time the mother has actually ever parented this child when he was outside of care, and the lack of progress on the mother, I would support the recommendation on the part of the department. And also I would state that legally, what is in the best interest of that child is what this court is all about. And I think you'll find that in the law over and over and over again, what is in the best interest of the child. And I would also state that I doubt, and I've never been a supervisor for parenting time, but I would be very surprised if parents did show a lot of issues that behind closed doors would be the same. I think that, they are on their best behavior, and they're being monitored. They're being afforded that time by the court, and they're being governed by the court. And it's a totally different story. And I think this mother has reflected that when the department is not so deeply involved in her life. So I would, again, support the recommendation of the department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Alexander, I want you to be very aware of what this court hearing has been about. The department has done, in my view, everything that it can to ring warning bells for you, to say to you, if you don't change and change significantly, we are going to ask to remove this child from your care permanently. And they have framed it in very nice words, but the time is coming. And I want you to very clearly understand that. I don't want you to take from today that, oh, it wasn't that bad. My attorney argued that I'm doing okay and I should have unsupervised parenting time, and he can well argue those things, but the time is going to come, unless you make significant changes, that the department is going to ask me to remove your child from you permanently. And on this record, it's going to be relatively easy for me to say, yes, Corbin is what, 1.5 years old? And you haven't had him for any significant amount of time at all on your own. The best you can say is you've had supervised parenting time. I'm extremely disappointed in the lack of cooperation that I see from you. I'm extremely disappointed in the lack of transparency. It appears to me that you're doing the minimum instead of doing the maximum. If I were a mom and I had a child that I wanted to be with me at all times, I would be living and dying at MDHHS asking, what more can I do? What else do you want from me? I'd be happy to do it. Not let me smoke my marijuana. Not, I'm not going to tell you about whether I'm in CBT training or not. Not any of this other stuff that Mr. Solis is talking about. I can't stress strongly enough to you how if you keep going down this path, you will leave me with no other alternative. Do I believe that you can get your son back? Absolutely. But it's going to take some huge changes from you. You've got to show me that you can care for him and care for yourself at the same time. That means you got to get a job and keep a job longer than 2 or 3 months. That means that you've got to be open and honest with your therapist, not because they don't spout the same words that you want to hear, but because you're doing your absolute best. So you stick with that therapist and you do everything that they ask you to do. You've got to be able to do things on your own without falling apart, without lying about it, without manipulating others about it. I believe you can do those things, but you just haven't done them yet. You haven't found the need. So what I'm trying to tell you in no uncertain terms is, if you're ever going to do that, now is the time. Do not wait for me to grant you more time to do this. You've had 1 year and you haven't shown it to me yet. The only way that you get any additional time out of this after this 3 months is if you show me a big change over this next 3 months. And as long as you are showing me that you're working as hard as you possibly can at this, then I will continue to grant you the dispensation to have more time. I'm not asking you to be perfect in 3 months, but I am asking you to do significant change. And that starts with being open and honest with your therapist. That starts with being open and honest with Mr. Solis. Everything they ask about, you need to tell them straightforward, upfront, without any manipulation. You need to sign whatever releases they want from the department. You need to do whatever they ask you to do. Get a job, keep a job. I'm not going to preach to you anymore. I don't think you need me to preach to you. This is all about you making a decision to change. If you do that, you'll be fine. Corbin will be fine. But right now, it doesn't look that way. So make the changes that are necessary. Mr. Solis, before we come back in 3 months, I want a full report from her current therapist on the progress that's being made, the types of therapy that's being done, and whether or not the psychological evaluation is being complied with. Now, whether that's in her words or that's in your words, but I need you to have contact with that therapist and give me a complete rundown of what they're talking about, how well she's complying with it, how hard she's working at it, and what areas that they're working on. And if it's simply minimal substance abuse kind of stuff, that isn't going to cut it. She's got some serious issues with her mental health, and she needs to address them. And I want to know whether or not she's doing that or not. All right. The court will follow the recommendation that Corbin remain a temporary ward and continue the referral to DHHS for placement care and supervision. I am going to give the department the discretion to determine whether supervised or unsupervised parenting time is available. If she is working hard, if she's being transparent, if she's cooperating, then let's start some unsupervised parenting time and see how she does, so that she can tell me in her own words and by her own actions that she deserves some additional time at this. But she's got to do what the department asks her to do before she warrants any unsupervised parenting time. I'm also going to follow the recommendation that Ms. Alexander comply with and demonstrate significant benefit from her parent agency treatment plan, including on the barriers of emotional stability, parenting time skills, resource management, social supports, and that would include her mental health treatment. And then finally, I'm going to continue the permanency goal as it is now, reunification, and I'm going to give her 3 months to show me that she deserves an additional 3 months after that. If she's not going to show substantial benefit in 3 months, we'll be at that 15-month time cutoff. And I think it would be appropriate at that point for the department to ask me for termination parental right petition. Mr. Somerville, is there anything else that you'd ask of the court's order?
No, Judge, thank you.
Mr. Brown, any questions or any comments?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Ms. Hansel?
No, sir, thank you.
All right. Ms. Alexander, please do your best. Do everything that you need to do. Show me that you need your child back so that I can remain where I am now, which is saying, I think you can do it. Don't make me have to make the decision that says you can't do this. All right. Good luck to you, ma'am. That's all for today.
Thank you.